Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to lay out an eccentric cone and we're going to make a funnel with those concepts. We're going to go from start to finish on this. I'm also in the process of recasting those parts for the Pexto 969. I will have the signs and the tulips and the baskets available at some point. You will be able to find them on my Facebook page at Pexto Sheet Metal Machines for Sale, where I also have a lot of other stuff listed. I do attend a lot of auctions and I buy a lot of stuff. So if you're looking for anything specific, check there. I usually do have a lot of stuff for sale. I do put some stuff on eBay, but I don't like paying their fees, but you can check there also. So with that, we'll get into making our eccentric cone. Please like and subscribe and enjoy the episode. Okay, so we're going to lay out our eccentric cone and we're going to make a funnel from this. I'm going from 6 to 2.5 and I'm going to go 5 long. I haven't decided yet how I'm going to do the top. I may do a wire on this, or I may actually make a straightaway here and put it on with the elbow gore roller. I didn't want to go 2.5 here on the top, but I can't get that into the machine to roll any kind of edge any smaller than that. So what I'll probably do is continue this on with another cone. I may lay that out here, I may not. But let's get started on this. So the first thing we're going to do is we are going to bisect this line to find our center. Again, I'm working off the edge of my bench, which has got angle iron on it and it's 90 degrees. We just want to find center here. I'm not going to be using this line, but we have to know where it is just to draw our radius out. So now that we know the half of the diameter, we want to take our radius and we're going to swing our quadrant. And just like in my other lessons, we're going to break that quadrant up. Now what we want to do, instead of carrying these lines up like we've done in other projects, because we are flat on one side, we're going to take these marks and we're going to carry them up into the bottom. This one goes on the center point. Now we're going to label those 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. The next thing we want to do is we want to find the apex. And this is the same lesson as we've done in other radial line lessons before. The only difference is we have this one flat side. We're still going to carry the points through, but that quadrant is pretty much the only difference. So now that we know where the apex is, we have to carry these lines from the base of our cone to the apex. Now this is a long method of doing this. I really don't need to draw these lines out, but for instructional purposes, we'll do it. So now we have all our true lengths here. So now we want to swing from our points here, top and bottom. That's 1. And these are going to be very close to each other. That's 2. That's 3. I'm carrying them from the apex to each point and then I'm bringing them into the cone. 4. 5. 6. And 7. Some of these are right on top of each other because this is a very small fitting. And then we're going to do the same thing down here. I apologize for the divider. I keep saying I'm going to go get a bigger one. I have this jerry-rig divider that I've been using. Okay, so we're going to go 1. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. Now we want to find our center point. Center point isn't that important, but we're going to lay out from the 7 line, and we're going to put our seam on 1. So we're 6 inches round. Just make sure we have enough room. So 6 inches round is 18 3/4 in circumference. So we just want to make sure we have enough room here away from this. So we're going to move this up a little bit more. As long as you're traveling from the apex, it doesn't matter where you place the center line. So we'll just do it right there. So now that just became 0.7. Now what we want to do is we want to get our spacing off the bottom, and we just want to go from line to line to line to line with every point. So we're going to go 7 to 6. Make sure your points are good here. So we're going 7 to 6, 6 to 5, 5 to 4, 4 to 3, 3 to 2, and 2 to 1. 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And then do the same thing on the opposite side. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and my ugly 1 line. Now you can take a line to 1, and that is going to be your seam line. We know that that's the seam line. Now here's where it gets a little more interesting. We know that 1 was on the top. So if I line up on 2, I could come here and I can go to 2. I can line up on 3. I can pick up 3. And so forth and so on. I can pick up 4. I can pick up 5. And I can pick up 6. And we already know 7 is in the middle. So now we have what our hole's supposed to look like there. And same thing, then we're just going to go back. Same thing here, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, and 2. This is going to be kind of tight here. That's a little much. You can always leave yourself a little bit extra material when you add things in. And so here, I'm just going to add 1/4 for a groove seam. And then I'm going to add 3/8 to the outside of this. Just so I have enough material to work with if I'm off a little bit. These will never come out 100% like you're doing them on a CNC machine, so. And you can add this to the bottom too if you want, but remember your fitting is going to grow. I just prefer to add them after the fact. I was going to lay this out of brass, but I don't have any left. So we're just going to do this out of copper. And the reason for that is brass and copper are non-ferrous and they don't spark. Because my buddy's using this as a funnel for an automotive application, we don't want to use anything that's going to create a spark. I'm surprised I got my fat head in the camera today. And there we have it. Now when you cut these patterns out, if you're going to leave them in the shop, leave your patterns without notches in them. It's easier to go back and scribe a pattern and put the notches in afterwards. You know, you could just put some mark in here, 1/4 by 3/8 notch. The last thing you want to do is totally depend on notches because they grow and they change. So now I want to lay this out. And I'm going to do this the same way. You could skip forward if you want, but if you want a little reinforcement on how this is done, we'll do this real quick. Everybody says, oh, the CNC machine can do it, whatever. I guarantee you some of these fittings, I can lay them out before you could go in the office, program the machine, and get it, the metal loaded and get it out. I will have it laid out already. Production-wise, no, I can't beat a CNC machine. But for singular fittings, I'm pretty efficient. So we'll make this 6 inches long. I'm gonna go down to 3/4. Okay, first thing we're gonna do, find the apex. Got our apex up here. That second one should always sort of line up in the center. And you can do this backwards. You don't have to have the tapered side. Just remember what side you're laying out from, or you're going to miss your true length lines. Are going to be going the wrong way. Now we want to carry those up. The reason I really didn't want to do this one on camera is because these are going to be very tight lines and they're going to be very hard to see. And you want to continuously get the same apex point too. Alright, so 1. And this top, believe me, these are going to be right on top of each other. It's probably really not even going to matter. They're all right on top of each other. So that really doesn't mean diddly for us. I think I'm going to go on Amazon tonight and order some new dividers for pencils that go pretty big. Alright, so 1. I'm going way out in left field there. I don't need to be that big. 2, 4, 5, 6, and 7. So again, just find our apex. This is a pretty small fitting. We can come pretty low. So again, this was 2.5 to 1/6. This is going to be 0.7. It's also going to be 0.7 up here. Now we want to get our spacing. We're going to go 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. I really can't see those lines. I'm just working my way up as I go. I can always add material to take off and square it up on the break. Make sure you count your lines out. And then here, obviously we don't know the spacing here, so we're just going to carry that through. I mean, if you want, you can just cut it a little deep just to get it. Just come to the bottom line. And here, same thing. This is pretty much just changing very little. And we'll do the same thing. We'll add a 1/4 here. And by adding a 1/4, I'm going to do a very small groove seam. We're only going to bend 3/16 on that. And same thing down here. I'm going to add 3/8 on the bottom again. Just in case I have to square things up. And I'll just throw a 1/4 in the top. Might want to make a little hem up here on the top just so I don't have a sharp end. So that is how you lay out an eccentric cone. That again is the radial line method. You can use the long method to do this also. I've never tried it before, but it can be done. You'd have to look at it from the top down and place your circles where you want them. And then grab your true lengths the same way we did some of the other lessons, but it can be done that way. So now we'll cut our patterns out. We're going to do this in copper, and then we will fabricate this. Alright, so I'll grab a flat side here. This piece of copper is kind of ugly. But it'll polish out. Try and stay away from that dent over there. Always try and save as much as you can. You never know what you could use a 1-inch piece of scrap for. Especially at $350 a sheet. And always straighten your lines out after the fact, because you know that piece of cardboard isn't exactly straight. And if you start putting down lines that are kind of wonky when you get into your groove seams and stuff like that, they're all hell's going to break loose on you. You're not going to be able to close them. But they do cut very, very straight. What I do like are these German things. A little bit of a bait store on that one. These will go to the scrap gods. All right, so as we said before, we were going to do a 3/8 line in the bottom. You should always hold these from the top like this. Don't do what I'm doing. Then we're going to do 3/8 on the bottom of this. And I'm going to scribe it on both sides. And then we're going to do quarters. Quarter on top of this. Quarter on top of this. And then we're going to do 3/16 on our groove seams. I explained that in one of the other videos. You always want to bend less than what your groove seam is going to be to allow for the dip in the groove. Okay, so there we have our two patterns. I guess I gotta throw some polish on here and clean these up real quick. Alright, so we're gonna roll our bottom of our funnel. And I've just done a 3/16 bend on each side, nothing crazy. This is kind of small, so we're not able to put it in the roller. So we're just gonna simply roll it around the anvil. Doesn't have to be perfect, you just have to get it there. Now that we've got it there, we'll just switch over to a larger anvil. We'll get this rounded out a little better. Again, it's only thin copper. Then we'll use the anvil just to lock it in place real quick. And start our groove seam. And again, we can round this out a little better. We're going to put a little solder in there to hold that together so it doesn't have center punches in it. So that's our bottom cone. So now we've got our top cone. Now the top cone, we're gonna rivet it. I was gonna do a groove seam, but I think we're gonna do solid rivets instead because the solid rivets will look better and then I won't have to try and get these two seams in the way of each other. So we're still gonna keep our 1/4 inch. We'll pull a 1/4 inch out of the back for the collar. We're not going to wire edge this, we're actually going to throw a 1 inch collar on it. So, we're just going to roll this over and we're going to line this up and we're going to pop some rivets into it. Alright, so we're going to pop some solid rivets in here. We have 4 inches in length, so we'll go 3/4, 2 and 3/4. So you want to start from the same edge. So we'll do 3/4, 3/4, then we'll do 2. And again, always start from the same edge because you want your holes to line up. 2, and then we have 2 left over, so we will go 1 1/4 more than that. So we'll go to 3 1/4. We're good. So now we want to get our Whitney punch. And we just want to mark these out because we are old and blind here. And when you punch something, your punch has a nipple on the end of it. So you'll be able to find the center of that hole with that nipple. So you simply just catch it right on the end of the punch. So the punch I had in there was a little bit big, so I had to switch over. I was punching something else earlier. Okay, so there we have our punched holes. Now we're going to leave the bottom rivet out because when we go to put this in, I don't want to fight that rivet. But we will put it in when we are done. Now these are solid rivets. You don't use them with a rivet gun. We use them with a hammer. So we'll get the rivet started. And then what we're going to use is what they call a rivet set. And we will round the head of that rivet over. I do like to use a brass hammer for this so that we do not wreck our tooling. This anvil's a little narrow for what I'm doing. We'll switch over to that side. And then you'll simply round that. And you'll simply round that rivet head over, but you want to keep working the tool around because they won't always go straight for you. And then we'll straighten out this mess in a minute. Okay, so, and again, we're leaving this rivet out for a minute. So you want to check yourself for flatness, and I think I've showed this before. You can simply take whatever you're making and come around a flat plate, and this will give you a flat line. Your patterns are not always going to be 100%. But we want to make sure here that we're also 90 degrees. Because this was a flat-sided cone, we want to make sure we're 90 degrees. So we are 90 degrees off the plate. Always use a flat surface for that. You can do it on a shear. Shear has a really good flat plate to it. Then we could come around and we could see where we're off. As you can see here, we had a high spot. And we want to do the same thing down here. So same thing, get yourself to 90 degrees. Make sure you're 90. So we are a little high in the front. I'm actually going to go ahead and put this rivet in. We'll probably end up fighting it a little bit. I do have some really nice decorative rivets that already have like a rounded head on them. But they're way too big for this application. The other thing is your tool has a hole in it just for that reason. If you have to get some metal down, you can use the tool to get the metal down for you. All right, so now we'll straighten this hole out. And again, this is some ugly metal, so we're definitely repurposing it. And now we'll take this off. So now we have a pretty flat profile, so we're going to run a turning bead through here. And we're going to make a seam to lock the collar on. And then we're going to take the bottom funnel and we're going to press that into fit. Then what we'll have is we'll have a collar here, and then we'll solder this up. And we'll probably have to make a few adjustments in here to get this to go the way we want it. But our profile's there, so we're pretty much where we want it right now. And you don't have to put a groove seam here. You could solder this together if you want. So let's move over to the turning machine and we'll turn our edges. So a lot of times it's hard to find a diameter on something that's tapering on you. So I made this long, we'll end up cutting it back. I just put like a decorative tab on here. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna make a V in here going towards the outside. And then on the main body, we'll put another V in there on the inside using the elbow gore die. So you wanna set the backstop just enough to pull the metal back. And this will be kind of hard to see with everything in the way, but you'll see it as it comes around. And you don't want to whack it all at once. You just want to get it started. So as you can see, we're just putting a V in here. You can do this with a turning die also. You don't have to use this particular die. When we did the funnel episode on the picture, I used the turning die to do it. But you also have to be careful with this because you can split the metal, especially working with copper. With steel, not so much. But with copper or any soft metal, you have to be very careful with it. It will split it. If you want, you could run this through the roller again to get it where you want it, and you would just put this edge inside the wiring groove. So now that we've done the outside, we're going to turn this one to the inside to go into that groove. Wants to do. And the reason I'm turning that at 90 degrees when I get up to here is if I keep the bite too low, because of that angle, it's going to bite more material, and we don't want that. And once we get it formed, we can simply just go in and sort of put that wheel where we want it. So now what we're going to do is we're just going to form this around that V, and then we're going to solder this on along with everything else. But before we do that, I'm going to take this, even though this really doesn't fit in here, and I just want to create a crease for that solder joint. Again, I'm just trying to turn this material a little bit so that I have a surface to mate to. Now I have a crease in there and I can hammer this out if I have to, but at least I have something to work with. Alright, so we just ran this through the roller real quick. And you want to put yourself into a little bit of an overroll. We're going to move the camera over to the bench here in a minute, but put yourself in an overroll, get it on there. And that looks pretty good. Again, this is the same die they use for making gored elbows. And you could flatten this out if you want. You'd have to go a little deeper with it to flatten it out, but it does work sometimes. But I can't go that deep on the copper because it will split it. And again, we'll put a decorative rivet in here. We'll use one of the nice ones. And we'll solder this together. But let's move over to the other bench. Alright, so the first thing I want to do is sort of open this up a little bit. And then we'll drop this in. And I'm using that crappy gas torch. I should be using something a little different, but... So, that actually fit in there pretty good. I already put some acid in this. You don't want to go crazy with the acid. You don't want it to look like hell. Anywhere you put acid is where your solder is going to flow to. Well, let's just clean this up. We'll get it to where it's straight. We'll line up that seam. And we'll just knock this around a little bit. Not too hard, it's light metal. So we're seated in there pretty good. We just want to make sure everybody's straight. That's pretty straight, so we'll drop some solder in there just to hold it. And we'll pinch it. We'll pinch it in here. And we'll put a mark there, just so we know where we want to be. Make sure our seams sort of line up. We'll just mark this just so we know where it lines up for us. That marker's a little dry. But this way, as we're soldering, we know nothing's really screwing up on us. So again, I really shouldn't be using this torch. It's a little much. I should be using something a little more fine. Alright, so now we want to get the top on. So the top, we left it loose. So we left the top loose. Just so we can figure out where we want it. And I don't want to line up every seam. That looks pretty close. We'll throw a decorative rivet in there. That one's got the nice round head on it, but they were a little big, but I could have used them. So for that, I'm not going to be able to get the tool in there. We'll just knock it down on the anvil. Okay, So I'll knock that down a little after. So now, take this, and we're going to put that in there. We'll find out where that rivet is first so that we're under it. Now that we're on, we can line that up or we can do it somewhere else. All right, we are on. Try and get ourselves round here again. And we'll run some solder around the inside of this. We'll run some 60-40 in here. Now I want to run a little on that seam. Trying to burn my hammers. And we had a little leak out of there, but we could clean that up. And we're going to polish all this up, so we'll let that cool off for a minute and we'll sand that solder off and then we'll polish it up. I already did some of it. Just a piece of 320. Clean your solder off. And then we could throw a polish on this. That's why you saw me wiping it down as I was soldering it. But this is, this brand, I'm not endorsing it, but it does work pretty damn good on copper and brass. So, and there we have it. If I had a polishing wheel here, we could probably take this to a whole nother level. We could put a piece of copper screen in here just to stop anything from going down into whatever you're filling. This was a fun project. It probably took me an hour and a half, start to finish, to do this. I hope you enjoyed the episode. I like showing what you can do with basic concepts on different parts and what you can make with them. And a lot of this will apply to other episodes we're going to film. I hope you enjoyed it. Please like and subscribe, and we'll see you in the next one.